What's going on, everyone, and welcome back into the channel. Brendan Schaefer, Fantasy Football, back with another video on trade market strategy. Who should we be buying low and selling high on in the NFL Week 3 for Fantasy Football? Make sure you hit that subscribe button to enjoy all of our fantasy strategy content all season long. And, of course, it is presented by Underdog Fantasy. I'm proud to be partnering with Underdog Fantasy, my favorite place to play fantasy games. Check out their Pick'em game. It's so easy to play. Pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. It really is that simple, folks, at Underdog Fantasy. And this week, they've got promos, as they do every week, going on with Underdog Fantasy. Discounts on NFL and MLB today. Tomorrow, 30% is the profit boost on Thursday. So check all those boosts and such out at Underdog Fantasy. And by the way, promo code BSHAFE is right there on your screen. That's how you sign up. Promo code BSHAFE to claim your free pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So make sure you're checking out Underdog Fantasy, helping to power this YouTube channel. Okay, here's how we do it. It's pretty simple. We go through the performances from Week 2 in the NFL. We talk about the players that we believe are performing above their head. Maybe you should sell high on them. And then check out the players that didn't perform very well. Maybe you should buy low on them. And there are some players who are performing well, and we think they're going to keep doing it. So maybe you buy high. It's just all about trade strategy. Timing is everything when it comes to fantasy football. And Alvin Kamara, his timing is, well, right on time right now. 44 fantasy points in PPR formats this past week. Yeah, good luck trying to buy him this week. If you want to sell him, I think you could. Like, could you get a Breece Hall or a Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, one of those true workhorse number one backs? I guess Gibbs is not in that category. Because he shares with David Montgomery. If I could get Breece Hall or Bijan for Kamara this week, I would. Otherwise, I'm probably just holding Kamara and enjoying the ride. I think that Saints offense won't be as productive all year as it's been recently. But, man, Kamara has been unbelievable. If you drafted him in the RB dead zone, congrats. That's a guy that I kind of missed out on. Devon Achane has been everything, though, that I thought that he would be. He has been absolutely fantastic. If you drafted Achane, you're having a good time. Marvin Harrison is having a good time as well. Big splash plays with Kyler Murray. I think that'll continue. Another guy that you're not going to be able to buy on this week, but I'm not really selling on Marvin Harrison. He was a pick at the turn, and now he's showing us exactly what we hoped to see from him. DK Metcalf, he went off against the Patriots. He might be a guy you could sell high a little bit if you're trading into more of an automatic top-tier wide receiver. Jamar Chase, we'll talk about him and some of the other buy lows that you might be able to get for DK Metcalf. And when you're doing this, you're probably trading Metcalf plus another piece to a team that doesn't have as much depth, and that's how you can get away with that sometimes. Malik Neighbors doing everything I said he would. Probably my one call that I did. Well, Achane too are my two guys that I really put a lot of weight behind, and they're paying off right now for me. James Cook, we know he was unbelievable on Thursday, so another guy, if you wanted to sell high, I'm always trying to sell high for Breece or Bijan. Like, those are the two running backs that are just elite of the elite. I love Jahmyr Gibbs as well, but if you're ever able to turn in somebody like Kamara or James Cook, add something to get Breece or Bijan, do that. But otherwise, you're probably holding tight with James Cook. Nico Collins is the wide receiver one for the Texans. There's no doubt about that. Devontae Adams is probably a bit of a sell high for me simply because he performed so well this week with 26 points, and I don't think he's going to be weekly doing that in a Raiders offense that won't always be somehow beating the Ravens. Godwin, similar tier. I think him and Evans are going to trade off for Tampa. So if you wanted to try to trade up for superstar wide receivers who had down weeks, Godwin's another guy you could use. Calvin Ridley, I was surprised to see did so well, sustaining there in the Will Levis-led offense. He did score a touchdown, and that helped. A couple touchdowns, actually, one on the ground. Probably a sell-high candidate for me. Again, we'll talk about some of the wide receiver names that you can try to package. Like, if you go Godwin and Ridley for Chase, I'd do that. And maybe some team that doesn't have a very good flex player would consider it if they're kind of bogged down by how Chase has been underwhelming so far. Breece Hall, we know, is elite. JSN, very interesting. I don't think both JSN and DK Metcalf are going to do that every week for the Seahawks, but they both popped off, and Tyler Lockett got the scraps this week. Amon-Ra, Jefferson, those guys were both fantastic. How about Jefferson's 97-yard touchdown? Quentin Johnston, goodness. I mean, he emerged. I'd be selling him high. 2 touchdowns carrying his day, but he could be viable enough in the Chargers offense. They're just not going to throw the ball very much. But yeah, Quentin Johnston, if I can trade up into a tier higher than him, I would do that. Zay Flowers was very good. I kind of thought he was a buy low last week, and that turned out to be the case. Shaheed is somebody you can sell high on. I was able to do it in a league where I got he wasn't the only player that I offered, but I ended up with Olave and Tank Dell, and Shaheed was kind of the biggest piece that I gave up. So that can be done for people that are seeing what he's doing with those bomb touchdowns from Derek Carr. Devontae Smith was great. You're not going to really be able to sell him at this point in time, or buy him low, I should say. Dobbins is interesting. Let's get into Dobbins, because Kittle will just gloss over the tight end. Like, he's going to have some really good weeks at tight end, but the tight end landscape is so wonky. I think Dobbins is a very interesting name to talk about here. Dobbins has had 2 really good weeks for the Chargers, but he's been amazingly efficient against 2 bad defenses. So he played less than 50% of snaps this past week, but scored again, had over 100 yards. It's been really, really productive for J.K. Dobbins. Not really factoring in much as a pass catcher, but I think he does have pass-catching chops relative to Gus Edwards. I just don't know, is Dobbins going to hold up for the full season? Like, he feels like a sell-high guy to me, but at the same time, on teams where I'm really running back needy, I've been trying to buy him. So I think people are mostly going to value him as like an RB2. I think if you really want Dobbins, and I do in some leagues, it might be smarter to wait a week, because he's going to have a week where he doesn't go absolutely bananas. He was drafted in like the 9th or 10th round. He's better than that. He should have been probably like a 5th round guy. But I also think there's going to be some moment where he falters. He's not getting a workload. I can't speak. A workhorse workload is what I was going for. And so there's going to be a moment in time where he doesn't produce 20 fantasy points, and that might be the moment you want to buy him. I like him long-term for the season, though. I think he's going to be the RB1 on that team. Braylon Allen is another interesting name at the running back position. You kind of think of him as a handcuff to Breece Hall, but he produced this week, a couple of touchdowns, and I think he's going to eat a little bit into that workload for Breece Hall, and he could be a guy that over the course of the season kind of takes some of the goal line work as well. He's big, man. Braylon Allen is a huge dude and has got a very interesting skill set. I actually did trade him away this week, but it was kind of in a big offer for one player. I was getting Garrett Wilson for Xavier Worthy, Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving, I think was the main squeeze of that deal. I think I got Blake Corum coming back to me. So I upgraded a tier from Worthy to Garrett Wilson, essentially added some really high upside running back stashes to do it. I thought that was a move that I wanted to make at the time, but I am pretty high on Braylon Allen. I'm just not sure Braylon Allen would have been part of that sell job if not for the big week he just had. So I did. I sold high, but I also think you could hold him and have a real good lottery ticket for later in the year if you are looking for some upside at running back. James Conner is plugging along. He might just be a guy that all year I'll tell you to sell him high, and he just keeps doing the thing, but eventually he could break down. So that's where you might want to at least have Trey Benson on your bench if you're relying heavily on Conner. CeeDee Lamb was his standard excellent this week, so no real way to buy or sell on him right now. That's outside the norm. Brock Bowers, you might be able to buy high. I liked him coming into the year, but his target hog nature has expanded even what I thought could happen in this game. 9 for 98 yards was very impressive to see. I kind of glossed over Hunter Henry because I think that's more of a flash in the pan. I don't think he'll be getting that type of target volume every week. But a young player like Bowers, you could certainly keep that up. Let's continue on. Trey McBride was great. We thought he would be. That was good to see a bounce-back week from him. Rashee Rice, his standard excellence, not anything to say about buying high or buying low or selling, whatever. He's just kind of what he's been, and I think he'll continue to be. Was nice to see him catch a deep touchdown as well. Debo is injured, so if you've got depth, now would be the time to try to trade for him. Same thing with A.J. Brown, who didn't play this week. Charbonnet was good in a starter's role. We'll see how long Ken Walker ends up being out, but you could try to sell Charbonnet off of that 18 fantasy point production. Darnell Mooney, I think he could end up kind of being a fixture there for Atlanta, but if not for the long touchdown, he wouldn't have been a big producer for fantasy, so I don't mind trying to sell him high. Anybody in that tier, I'm always probably looking to sell high on if I can, if he has a big week. Jahmyr Gibbs was standard, Saquon standard. He's another guy, Saquon, in that top tier, but they did have the old tush push, take a touchdown away from him at the 1 yard line this week, so something to keep in mind there is the upside will be slightly capped, but I'm still very high on Saquon Barkley. Mason, he's going to be the guy for a while now, so a lot of people are treating him like a fixture in fantasy trades, and I think that's fine. For anybody that's still kind of treating him like only a few week option, I think you probably can still buy Jordan Mason. There are going to be varying opinions out on him. CMC, I think, will come back eventually. I just don't think it's going to be soon. So you'll have Jordan Mason for a while, and he'll be their workhorse. Drake London got that touchdown, won me a week with it at the end of the Monday Night Football game, so that was very nice to see. Checking out Ramondre, kind of in that James Conner tier, just plugging along. He's getting volume, and volume is king a lot of the time. David Montgomery actually catching some passes this week made him very interesting. He's going to play all year, so I think David Montgomery, if you're looking for some solid RB2 production, good guy to target even though he's producing, you might be able to still buy him. Alec Pierce did his thing again. He should at least be rostered. He didn't even come off of waivers in some of my leagues after he did it the first week. But, yeah, I mean, he did it again, so you can't really argue with that. Bijan is Bijan. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. Henry looked better in this game, too. So that was good to see him get the 84 yards and the touchdown for the Ravens in this one. Scrolling down, like Pacheco, obviously somebody that you could buy. If you've got the depth to do it, he'll be out 6 to 8 weeks. So this is the time that I like to maybe trade good bench players for injuries. And if you have an IR spot, that can be a good thing to do strategy-wise. Jonathan Taylor continues to be right around what we thought he would be. Tony Pollard in that range. This is now kind of the middle tier. You're not really going to buy low or sell high on anybody that's scoring 14 to 15 points necessarily. We'll gloss over some of the names. Jacobs was interesting. I mean, he got 32 carries. I think that may be a trend that continues if Malik Willis is that quarterback still, because he's very limited, but no receptions. So just something to keep in mind. In PPR, Jacobs was better for real football, I think, than he was for fantasy this week. Olave, you can maybe still kind of try to buy, as I did, only 12 points. I think there's better days to come for him. Just hasn't found the end zone yet. Scrolling on down, I would sell high on Chuba Hubbard, looking even remotely competent. Brian Thomas, I think you might be able to buy. He's having some big splash plays, but he's not been involved with enough targets yet, so you could still maybe buy him. We'll talk about the Bears. DJ Moore is a guy that I think I would buy on tentatively. Better days are to come for Caleb Williams, even though it does look bad right now. The pecking order there for me is DJ Moore, and then I'd still probably rather have a Dunze than Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen is going to get target volume when he comes back, so that in PPR can be pretty valuable. See here, I bought Garrett Wilson off of a 10-point game. I swapped out some bench guys essentially to get him, because I had Worthy as my wide receiver 5. So I really thought that was a solid move that I made last night. Now we'll start to get into the tier of guys who are maybe buy lows. Guys you're looking to acquire this week because they didn't perform that well. And it's a simplistic idea, but it can work in your favor if you strike with the right timing on guys. Let's talk about Jalen Waddle. He's interesting right now because of the Skylar Thompson situation. Tua is on IR. Thompson's going to be the quarterback. They did sign Tyler Huntley to the practice squad, but he's not really better than Skylar Thompson to me. So, yeah, it could be a little bit leaner for Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. But also, they are still very elite pass catchers, and the Dolphins are going to have to eventually throw the ball, and they're going to try to get it into the hands of their playmakers. So Waddle is kind of a hold for me, but I can also understand if you can package him with another similar wide receiver to upgrade, and you've got the depth to do it, now might be an okay time. Because it could be very quickly a situation where he's not as valuable without Tua. Brandon Ayuk, kind of moving in the opposite direction. He's definitely a buy, but you might not be able to do it now with the Debo injury. I just feel like with CMC and Debo out, there's got to be a way that Ayuk is going to get more involved in the next couple of weeks. So I would buy him if you can, but I think most people see that Ayuk is about to probably have a bounce back, so it might be tough to do. McLaurin, I think he's going to kind of oscillate between 8 points, and then he'll score a touchdown. He'll get you 17 because he'll get a bunch of targets. He was 6 for 22 this week. It's a little bit dicey in that passing game right now, but he's a good player. So if you're trading a bench piece for him, I don't mind that necessarily on a buy low. Stephon Diggs, I don't think is a buy low. I think he's going to have weeks like this more often than not. His first game, I said he was a sell high, and I think that window was passed. But if you can still sell him because people think he's going to bounce back to what he was week 1, I would. Nico Collins is the receiver I want in Houston, and I would still probably trade Diggs for Tank Dell straight up, personally. I'm still not out on Tank Dell. Cooper Kupp, we're still waiting to see what the heck's going on with him. I think he'll be on IR, but is it going to be like a 4-week IR or a 6 or an 8 or a 10-week IR? to the point where the Rams are so bad, maybe he doesn't even come back. Kupp is a tough guy to try to figure out right now. I'm still buying tight ends like Kincaid because I don't think it's going to be the way that it's been forever. I think he's going to come around. Jamar Chase is obviously going to come around. He should be somebody that if you can buy him now, do it. 2 rough-ish weeks in a row could make a manager panic, and you could trade guys who are really producing, who are also very good players, and maybe you could get Jamar Chase. Worth a try. Mike Evans is going to go back and forth between great weeks and weeks where Godwin's great. This week, Godwin was great. So, he kind of has been what he's going to be, I feel. Tyreek Hill, you can try to buy low on him if a manager is truly panicking over the bad week and the Skylar Thompson of it all. But again, he's Tyreek Hill, so you might have an issue being able to do that without seeing him struggle for a little bit longer. Then maybe people might start to panic more. Who are some of the real buy lows, though? We're down to 5 fantasy points. Is there anybody like Roma Dunze? Again, I would still kind of buy, but not if you're trading a starter for him. I don't think it's safe to start him right now, but Dunze is going to be somebody you want later in the year. Pittman, again, Anthony Richardson, I just don't think that's going to be a pass offense that, I wasn't really drafting a ton of Pittman, and we're kind of seeing why. But, again, if you can trade a bench piece for him, a couple of bench pieces for him, I think I would, because he's going to have better weeks than this. Kyle Pitts, unlike Kincaid, I might not be aggressively buying low on Pitts. He might just kind of be what he is. But I do have some Pitts shares, so I'm hoping for the best for that situation. Try to buy low on Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston got all the love this week, but I think McConkey will have it swing his way at times. Buy low on Deontay Johnson, I think, is fair because Andy Dalton's going to help him out. If Deontay gets targets from Andy Dalton, he's going to be productive. You could buy low on Xavier Worthy, but I happened to sell him this week because I was trading up a tier. I also don't mind trading for Worthy if you're trading away guys. I think I'd trade Rashid Shaheed for Worthy. I think I'd do that trade because I view Shaheed in a lower tier than Worthy. Sam Laporta, buy him. I mean, try to see if somebody's panicking. If you've got a tight end that performed, maybe Isaiah Likely plus a good receiver, you can get Laporta, and there will be better days ahead. I'm seeing if there's anybody we're missing. Ray Davis is probably a buy for me. I regret that I had to drop him in a league and he got picked up. Try to grab Ray Davis on the cheap if you can. Bucky Irving, same thing. I still like these young running backs. Tank Dell is definitely a buy for me this week. If people are panicking, I think he'll be fine as the season goes along. But you do have 3 pass catchers there in Houston that you have to contend with. Still buying on Blake Corum. Buy on all those rookie running backs that people are looking to drop right now. If you have the bench space to have them, I think you should try to have them. I would buy on Travis Kelce, but it's not going to be like it always was for Kelce. But he got 1 catch. You can buy on Travis Kelce. And I'll still buy a little DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure he's completely dead. So if there's a bench bat that you want to trade for him, I think that's a big name that people are going to be probably cutting him in some leagues this week. Jalen Wright's another guy that I still want to keep an eye on. Christian Kirk will have better days ahead, so you can buy him. Again, we're talking about trading bench guys right now for some of these players that have just started off so slowly. I think we're going to have bounce backs, making sure I didn't miss anybody. We're down to guys who did not record a fantasy point, so there won't be any names that matter on this list. We can check out some names that are worth thinking about for trades. I want to look at Christian Kirk real quick. There's any trades happening on Yahoo leagues that are interesting for Christian Kirk. Yeah, like Ty Chandler, Zach Charbonnet. I'd rather have the wide receiver in PPR leagues in those formats. Kirk was traded away with Chase, so kind of a buy low / sell high situation, or really 2 sell lows. But Chase, we think, is really going to bounce back. But what they got was Rice and Tyreek Hill, so I like that trade for sure. Kirk for Pacheco. Maybe Pacheco's a bench bat for you, and you're waiting on Isaiah Pacheco. That could be reasonable. I kind of want to check in on McCaffrey again, see if anything's going on with him. He's going to be out for a while, but he's probably getting traded a bunch. We talked a lot about him last week. If you can get Taylor for McCaffrey at this point, I would. If you can get Rice for him, I would. Straight up for Mason, I think is reasonable. If you're a desperate 0-2 team, you could do that. I wouldn't trade him with Reed for Mason, though. Kyron Williams, I think I would. Yep, I think it's to that point that I would get Kyron for McCaffrey. Tyreek Hill for McCaffrey, yes. But I'm not going to trade really, really low on him for like Rachaad White. No thanks. Nope, I'll just hold at that point. McCaffrey for Dobbins. But you went from Rice to Chase, so that's fine. I could see that move. But I like Rice a lot as well. Some of the names that were buy lows, who do we want to look at as far as trades? And let me know in the comments if there's somebody that I don't talk enough about that you're wishing I did. Let's talk about Laporta a little bit. I'm curious to see if people are panicking on Sam Laporta right now in their leagues. Yeah, lots of trades happening with him. Laporta for Bowers is interesting. I still think I'd rather have Laporta. 2 weeks have gone by. Nobody's gotten injured. Laporta was being drafted as the tight end 1, and Bowers was kind of left for dead in drafts. So, yeah, give me Laporta. Laporta and Smith for Amon-Ra. I actually don't mind that because I think Amon-Ra is their best weapon. So, that's interesting. Laporta for Pittman. I would rather have the Laporta side on that. Laporta or Waddle. Give me Laporta. These are some interesting trades, though. I like Laporta over McLaurin and Dobbins for sure. So, yeah, I think you can buy Laporta right now if you've got a panicky manager that just doesn't want to be involved in, him just getting no targets. I could understand that. Could definitely see that being the case, and we're seeing it happen here on some Yahoo leagues for sure. See what else is going on. Other guys that I've maybe forgotten about. I want to check in with the trade market. It's a great tool on Yahoo where you can see what moves are being made and try to decide how you feel about them. And that can be an effective way to gauge somebody's trade value. Tank Dell is another guy that I should kind of look at and see. Guys that you can actually buy low this week are guys that we're talking about. And look, Yahoo maxes out, I think, at 25 trades. It shows the most recent 25. Dell is getting moved a lot. I prefer Dell over Algier, Dell over Swift, Dell, I think, over Worthy, narrowly. Dell over Shaheed. Yes, these are good types of buy lows on Tank Dell. I like Dell over Pittman, actually. Dell over McConkey. I agree with all those on the Dell side. But if you could go Dell and ETN for Chase, as long as your RB depth is good, I like that side of it. Tank Dell or Goddard, give me Dell. Dell and Rachaad White, but you can upgrade to Gibbs. That's a good job. Like, that's a way to, you wouldn't think Dell has that much trade value right now, but you're actually packaging him to move up to a more safe player in Gibbs, which I think is great. Those are the kinds of things that are fun to do when you can find the right fit. And sometimes it's the other guy needs depth, so he'll take the 2-for-1. He's a Dell believer still, so you're able to make that happen. Jamar Chase is somebody that we should check out because he had a lower scoring week, and he's being moved a ton. This is the way it works. Chase for Kamara. Yeah, I think give me Chase, even though Kamara might last all season. In PPR formats is kind of how I base my trade thoughts. Chase plus Achane for Jefferson. Chase Achane all day. I don't know how that happens. Even in a non-PPR, that's crazy. Chase or Cooper, easily Chase. Chase or Cooper plus London, easily Chase for me. Chase or Jacobs, easily Chase for me. Chase or Breece Hall. Probably Breece Hall on that one. Neighbors and Chase is interesting. I think those guys are in the same tier. I love Malik Neighbors. And the guy that did Neighbors got Brian Robinson too. So that's actually pretty interesting there. It's really possible to have a big trade market for big name players that aren't performing right now. I kind of want to check in on Garrett Wilson because I made a trade of Garrett Wilson on Yahoo last night. He's obviously a guy that's being traded plenty. Wilson and Carson Steele, who's a popular waiver claim for Brandon Ayuk. Wilson and Ayuk are very similar to me. Wilson over Henry, I prefer that. Again, PPR, let's get the guy who could see 10 targets. Garrett Wilson for Jerome Ford, easily Garrett Wilson. That's crazy to me that happened. Garrett Wilson for Dobbins, yep, it's Wilson. Yeah, trade the running back that's overperforming for the wide receiver who's underperforming. That typically is going to be the way that I want things to go. Yeah, let's check out Ayuk, though, because I'm curious. There could be people trying to buy him low, but also people going, he's the main show in town for that team right now. Rodgers for Ayuk, I'm going to assume that was a super flex. And we just saw that Ayuk for Garrett Wilson. Try to look at the 1-for-1s when I can. Ayuk or Stephon Diggs, easily Ayuk for me. That's a nice trade. Ayuk with Pittman and London. I think London could be as good as Ayuk, so I don't really love that for the Ayuk side. If the Pittman-London side needed depth and it's maybe a deep league where you have an extra flex, could be a very nice trade. Shaheed and Dobbins for Ayuk. That's how you do it. That's how you play fantasy football. Nice trade getting Ayuk out of that. Ayuk for Mason? Same team. Ayuk for Waddle? Yes, I prefer Ayuk to Waddle because I think he's going to have an uptick whereas Waddle could be trending slightly in the other direction right now. Anything else jumping out about true buy lows? Actually, let's just look at some of the guys that you could sell high. Kamara. I bet Kamara is going for some of the top. Only 4 trades. Yahoo must be glitching out here. We see Kamara for Chase, though, twice. So that kind of gives you an idea. Yeah, I guess it's not surprising. Guy scores 44. I don't think many people are that have like their head screwed on straight or trying to trade him away. Me, I would go, ooh, what can I get? But not everybody likes to trade on that level. Drake London's kind of another interesting guy. I'm honestly putting in a lot of prompts on players that I roster to kind of see what's going on there. How is there only 1 trade for London? Like, come on, Yahoo. There's no way. There's no way. Okay. All right, well, it's gone 25 minutes on this video. Let me know if there's anything that I missed, anybody that you want to hear me talk about, but I think it could be very effective to talk about buy low, sell high every single week, and that's what we're going to do on this channel. By the way, check it out, Underdog Fantasy, promo code BShafe, sign up for a free pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Appreciate you guys, as always, for supporting the channel. We'll talk to you next time on BShafe Fantasy. Peace!